rationale for me quick? Nice. Thanks. I don't know how to get to it.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Hey, when I'm not on the radio, I'm working with folks just like you to help them buy and sell homes. I'm proud to say that my team, the Baker Realty Group, has been helping people buy and sell homes in the greater Sun Prairie area for over 10 years. Information about buying and selling a home is available on my website, thebakerrealtygroup.com, on Facebook by searching the Baker Realty Group, or by calling 608-575-6731. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with Bill Baker and Laura STanfield. Brought to you by the Baker Realty Group.
Welcome to the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with your host, Bill Baker.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show. I'm Bill Baker, your host, and glad to be here. Welcome to Hump Day. We're here. We made it. It's a chilly day outside. I'm supposed to play golf later. I don't think so.
Burr.
It's going to be burrs, right? I tell you on this. But hey, you're listening to 103.5 WLSP, the Sun, right here in beautiful Sun Prairie at the Sun Prairie Media Center, and we're underwritten by those wonderful folks at the Bank of Sun Prairie, the Baker Realty Group, and of course Wintrust Mortgage. And 7 years ago we created this show, and it was all about educating and informing you as the public to buying and selling of real estate, and answering a lot of the questions that you had, and address some of the challenges, and just have a lot of fun doing that. The goal that Laura and I have always had is to make your event, your selling, your buying fun.
Experience.
Experience, yeah.
Your experience.
Yeah.
I guess it's an event. But
it is an event.
It could be a good experience.
Hey, pull that towards you a little bit, would you?
How do you say that?
Yeah, pull. Oh, grab the big thing right here. Now pull. Don't pinch your fingers. 7 years, and you think you should know that already?
I think they can hear me fine.
Right.
Do your thing.
do my thing.
Do your thing. Yeah.
Hey, that voice you hear is Laura STanfield, the most amazing mortgage lender in the world. Okay, in Sun Prairie. Yeah, I like the world better, but
On my street.
Hey, what's going on in the world of mortgages? Are we
Oh.
still climbing? Are rates still going up?
Actually, the last couple of days we saw some improvement, so that was really nice to see.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Not a whole lot, yeah, honestly. So I always have to say in most cases, because it is not a one-size-fits-all, but interest rates in general are around 5%, sometimes over, depending on the day. So it's kind of we don't want to hope for bad things to happen in the market, but a lot of times when that happens, then investors might put their money into mortgage-backed bonds.
Yeah.
And so that could be an advantage if you're buying a home or refinancing, then we could maybe see rates fall back a little bit. So
Sure.
That's kind of what's going on right now, is the market's going nutty in that way. But we know that rates have come up really fast since the beginning of the year. So don't think we'll head back into the 2s anytime soon, and maybe not even in the 3s.
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. It's a cycle.
Sure.
And the longer that you're in this, the more you realize it's a cycle. Housing, everything just kind of goes through ebbs and flows, and so you just have to figure out what makes sense for you.
Well, and let's just remind people a little bit of what's going on and why this has happened. And it's really because of the federal government dumping the bonds. I mean, they've sold their bonds that they've been buying for how many years?
Yeah, many.
4 years, 5 years now? And so that's why rates are going up. Mortgage rates aren't directly affected by interest rates or the Federal Reserve.
Federal funds rate, yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of people say, yes, they are. And I'm like, no, they're not. Yes,
No.
they are. But
It's
no,
an
they're not.
indirect impact.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. Now, it does affect credit cards, your
Short-term
car loans.
loans.
Right, exactly.
Home equity lines, it could affect
Right.
that as well. But long term, no, not necessarily. It's not just even that. It's not just about the federal funds rate or whether or not the Fed is buying mortgage-backed bonds. It's all kinds of things that play into it. We watch job numbers. If the job numbers are up or down, that could mean interest rates are going up or down.
Mhm.
Ukraine's playing into this. Fears of recession,
Sure.
inflation are funneling into this. So it's a lot of different things that play into rates.
We need to get the media to just be quiet. Stop
Well,
talking
that's not
about
going
it.
to happen.
They're-
It's not
I
their
know.
job to be quiet.
I know, but they sensationalize things.
Well,
That's why everybody should just listen
that's
to our
a
show.
whole other show.
Well, they come to our show and listen. They get all the facts.
Hmm.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just
Well,
saying.
they get facts. I don't know if they get all the facts.
They get all the
They
facts, ma'am.
Yes.
All the
Right.
facts. All the
Just
facts.
ma'am.
Now, something that is dear to our heart and something we've been working on and we've been trying to direct attention to that is affordable housing, workforce housing, of course, fair housing, always.
Coming to the tail end of Fair Housing Month.
I know,
Right.
I know, and that's why
Yeah.
our special guest is here too,
Mhm.
because she's the expert.
Oh, you all are the experts, come on.
She's going to give us her facts.
She's going to give us some
There you
insights, I
go.
hope.
Yeah.
Well, and because you and I work with people, we've got a 2 or 3 people right now that you and I are working with, that it's a struggle for them.
It is.
I mean, they're trying to put 3.5% down to buy a house. They're FHA.
One of them wants down payment assistance.
One of them, oh God, that's the third one.
Yeah.
And in this crazy market, it's what I'm going to call it, challenging market.
Mhm.
Those aren't looked upon favorably
They're not.
by sellers.
And it's unfortunate. I think a lot of it is lack of education
Right.
around them, but some of it too is, I get it, the seller just wants what's easy.
Sure.
What's clean, what's easy, who's going to give you the most money.
Right. And get it over with fast.
Yeah, I understand.
We talked about a listing last Wednesday, the house that went on the market, and within a day they had 74 showings.
I know. Who wants to
Even this
see
one's
really
eyebrows went
that?
up. Megan's like, what?
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. And I don't know how many offers that she's gotten. We'll have to ask Ann and find
Is
out.
it Ann Bransky?
It's Ann
Yeah.
Bransky, and she'll tell us that.
Yeah.
But affordable housing, how are we going to correct all this? Well, it's going to be a mixture of different things. It's going to be municipalities. It's going to be our state. It's going to be our banks. And I wanted to have Senator Agard on, Melissa Agard, come on and talk about this because you're the ranking Democrat in the Senate Housing Committee, and just have you chat a little bit about it behind the scenes, and then just share some ideas and thoughts on this. It's because this is a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
We know that housing strengthens when there's home ownership. Now we got 2 issues. We've got rentals that are going through the roof just as much as home prices are. That's a different subject we have to talk about, but and we can kind of tie them in if you want to. But we know that home ownership strengthens a community. We know that. Even the school side of it, and the young ones going to school, they do better in school. But so let me introduce this lady, because I'm really fond of her, and I'm really proud that she's our senator. Senator Melissa Agard was first elected to the Wisconsin Assembly back in 2012. You were actually on the county board, though, before that, right?
I did, I served 2 terms on the Dane County Board of Supervisors.
You
before
must
that.
you must really like politics.
I care about my community, and one of the things that my dad taught me while I was a young person growing up was if you see something that's not working, try to be the solution.
I love that.
And there's room for you at the table.
Right.
And just even running for office, I thought, well, maybe I don't win, but I'll try, and maybe I'll be able to engage in conversations that I think people need to have. And
Oh my
that's
gosh.
why I decided to originally run for office. And I had no idea what a county board did. I grew up in the city. As a city kid, what does it matter? But after having served 4 years on the county board, I realized that a lot of the services that helped me be who I am, because I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot, frankly came from our county. And the county government is so very, very important in helping
Sure.
our communities be strong. And in Wisconsin, our 72 counties are amazing leaders and wonderful partners. So that's where I cut my teeth, and here I am. I never imagined that I would work in that capital.
Wow. Isn't
I
it?
It's a
remember
great
in-
story.
I think it
Sounds
is.
like you had a cool dad.
They have a cool dad.
Yeah.
They really do.
Wow.
Why the jump from Assembly to Senate? What
So-
was it about the change there?
Yeah, so this district, the 16th district, has been represented by Senator Mark Miller for a really long time. And he was
Forever.
a great partner of mine when I was in the Assembly. I really enjoyed working with him. But he announced he wasn't going to run again. And I saw it as a unique opportunity to raise my work ethic and representation for a whole another group of people that I was not representing in the Assembly. In the state Senate, and it's been a wild year and a half to be a baby senator in Wisconsin, right? Like in the middle of a pandemic, at the height of tension when it comes to how it is that people see public service, and it's even harder to get things done as an elected official right now because of that tension and because of the pandemic. But I wouldn't change it. I love it, and I'm falling more in love with parts of Wisconsin that I didn't know at that intimate level, because I get the opportunity to get my feet down in the communities more now as a senator, bigger area.
Wow.
Well, I have to tell you something that, and I know you listen to our show all the time, so you probably already know this, but what I've said about Sun Prairie is that our community is so strong because we have a wonderful school district, we have a government that's approachable. Our city council, our mayor, our senator, our representative, Gary Hebel, who's retiring on me.
He's not going anywhere.
I know, he can't keep his hand out of that. But everybody's so approachable, and that's what makes our government and our community so incredible, and why people want to move here. And so thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it
Sun
really
Prairie's
is.
a special spot, right?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Greatest city in the entire world, by the way. Not that I exaggerate or embellish
You're not
anything.
biased at all.
No, I love this place. Now, you came in November of 2020, right?
So that's when I was elected, and then
Yep.
sworn in
January.
of 21.
Right.
Yep.
And, all right, let me get this right, because I tried to copy my notes down, but
It's
I don't
okay.
know.
Yeah.
So you're on, you currently serve on the Joint Legislative and Audit Committee, Financial Institutions and Revenue, Housing, of course, Commerce and Trade, Natural Resources and Energy, Human Services, and Child and Families. Wow.
That's a lot.
It's a big swath. And then I serve on a couple of commissions.
Okay.
Commission in regards to addressing sexual assault and violence in the state. Bike commission for the state of Wisconsin. We need to think more about multimodal transportation. That's another way to strengthen communities. And then I also serve on a little board that oversees the state capitol grounds and the executive residence. And it's a
Okay.
pretty cool little board to sit on, because those are two very historic, important
true. Yes.
landmarks in our
Yeah.
community.
Wow, you're busy though. I keep hearing, wow, she's got so many things going on. Cool.
Well, and I think it's cool that we have the mansion over there in Maple Bluff the way we do. That really sets us apart too. That's a part of Wisconsin and the history. I love the tours there, especially during the
I was
holidays.
just going to ask. I've never been to one.
We have to go.
We'll
We should do a
get
show
there.
from there.
Yeah. After the pandemic simmers down a little bit more,
Right.
I'm sure it's been not really
Makes sense.
accessible.
Yeah.
Because the governor does call it home.
Sure.
We
Right.
want to make sure that he and his family are safe.
Absolutely.
But it's amazing. Normally at the holidays you can go in and see the displays for all the different trees that are decorated by different community organizations. In the spring they have an Easter egg roll.
Oh, just like the
little
White
kids
House.
can come and
It's our own little White House.
it's
right?
our own little.
I think it's
Yeah.
prettier than
Yeah.
the White House, by the
It's
way.
beautiful.
I've never
The White House
driven
isn't on the
by,
lake.
that's it.
Yeah.
It's not on the lake.
They have their reflecting pond.
We're close enough.
In
There
bowling
you go.
alley.
Yeah. And a bowling alley?
Not in the mansion, not the governor's mansion.
Oh.
No. No.
Where's the
The White House that there is though.
Oh,
And a
right.
movie theater.
A movie theater, yeah.
Because why not?
And so the governor can afford to live there right now. Afford, get it? No, come on, I'm trying to be a little funny in this.
That's really funny.
Talk to me about the housing assistance bill.
Yeah, so, having served on the county board, and I chaired the Health and Human Needs Committee, when I was growing up, I was housing insecure for a while as a kid, and I know that's not a unique reality for so many people in our state. And one of the things that I have heard, I have met with mayors and city administrators and community leaders all across the district. That was one of the very first things that I did after being elected. And one of the things that rises to the top of concerns about policymakers within their municipalities is access to affordable housing. And certainly Sun Prairie is not unique in that list. And you know, I've talked to service providers. They also talk about the importance of access to affordable housing. So how is it that we all can agree that this is a problem, but we need a way to actually address it? I think one of the problems is we can all define affordable housing in very different ways,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't actually have a definition of what affordable housing
Right.
is. So how do you solve a problem if you're not even defining it?
Well, some people would say you just throw a bunch of money at it
Well,
and let it just sit there and fester a little bit.
you need, you know,
It's true.
some people might say that,
I
but I
know.
think that you need to have goals, like what are we trying to achieve, what are we
Right.
trying to address, what barriers are we trying to overcome, and, you know, if you just put money out there, everyone loves money, I'll take more money, I'm sure that
Sure.
you guys would take more money
Right.
too,
Yeah.
but is it actually going to be solving the problem that we're trying to address without having benchmarks and accountability?
Sure.
So we created a piece of legislation that would create a pilot program in Wisconsin that would allow counties to apply for grant funding to assist folks within their communities with down payments of up to $15,000. And under this piece of legislation, the income of that person who would be applying for these grants couldn't exceed 300% of the federal poverty level. Because, Bill, as you pointed out, rent prices are going up and up, right? So many people can be approved to live in an apartment and pay rent. That amount of money they're paying for rent is actually probably more
Correct.
than what a mortgage would be to own a house. And the reason why they can't go into owning a house is because they don't have that down payment. They don't have that money available. As you were saying, that to help the seller know that this is a safe person to be able to
Right.
sell their house to.
Right.
So this would be a way to thread that needle, to help people get into homes. And we know that in Wisconsin there are real racial disparities when it comes to home ownership. And you know, that's a way to plant seeds to generational wealth and supporting our kids,
Sure.
supporting communities, and supporting individuals. It's a win-win. And I've had an amazing collaboration of people who have supported the legislation.
Okay.
No surprise to y'all, probably, as a Democrat, I wasn't able to get a public hearing on the bill. But, you know, I'm hoping that with statewide support from different associations and leaders that we can at least have that conversation next session.
Can I ask a question? Where did the 300% number come into play as far as the income eligibility?
So we have worked with different agencies to figure out where the biggest barriers and humps were, and you know, we had to land somewhere. And it's when you draft a piece of legislation, you create an idea, create those benchmarks, and if people come forward and say, you know, I think this would be better if you had it at 150% or at 500%, okay, well, let's talk about that. We can always amend the bill. But the 300% seemed, based on the conversations that I have with different folks that are supporting people within that income range, that made the most sense to them.
Okay.
You know, that seems like, as you said, we talk about this to death. It's a political phrase, affordable housing. Yes, I support affordable housing. When I ran for city council, I wanted to talk about affordable housing, but I wanted to do something about it. To me, it seems like we have to tear the system down because the way it's working isn't working for everybody. So it's not housing for all. And the example you brought up about apartments, they are more expensive that payment's more expensive than a mortgage in most cases. In fact, when we see rental rates drop below mortgages, that's when the market will flip, you know. But there's got to be, and I tried to talk to Jimmy Kaufman about this. He wanted to hold off until the housing study for Sun Prairie was finished, which I do not like at all. I didn't like. The facts are wrong, and I've already found the errors in there. But
It's based on old information too.
it's outdated.
3 years ago, at
You spend
least.
$80,000 and you want up-to-date information,
Yeah.
not 2019. Please, don't get me started. You can see the fire in
We
my eyes.
didn't. He started himself.
I think
Turn yourself off.
I think you lit that fire.
Oh, thanks.
You
Well,
did.
just give me some good information, and
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't bring up-to-date information at the end of 2021, because it's there. If I can find it, anybody can find it. But there's got to be a way that we step back. I think Wisconsin can do this. We can be the leaders in this. It's got to be a combination of legislative involvement, giving municipalities, I don't know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's got to be lending institutions that have a different kind of product. Maybe it's an in-house product. Maybe it's the legislature working with our lenders that guarantee mortgages without putting the dollars out there. I mean, and then it's the construction also. How we build those homes and what the municipalities say we have to have.
The development.
The
piece of
development,
it.
right. Because we already know 25 to 30% of the cost is in the fees and cost to the community, to the municipality. And that seems very high. That seems, if a builder was making 30% on a house, everybody would be screaming and raising their hands and throwing a fit, and they'd be protesting down at your office. But it's the other way around, and that 30% is going to the municipality, and the municipality says, well, you know, we're going to have to increase taxes if we take that revenue away. Well, no, you don't.
Well, there's,
That's a lot
you know,
I just said, right?
I mean, you put a lot out there, and certainly, you know, are we talking about housing? Are we talking about tax laws? Are we talking about, you know, like it is very messy. You know, one of the bills that I have been proud to be leading on since my time over in the Assembly and continue to talk about a lot in the Senate is the dark store loophole piece of legislation, right? So, you know, who is it that's paying the taxes to the municipalities?
Right.
In Wisconsin, we have depended more and more on property owners, homeowners, to pay into the tax structure for the state, as opposed to corporations or folks who are making a lot of record profit in Wisconsin.
Right.
And that causes an unbalance. And you know, one of the things I hear a lot from folks in my community in the 16th Senate District is, how are we going to keep our taxes affordable so that people can age in place? You know, you've lived your life, you've played by the rules, you've done everything that you were supposed to do, and you would love to be able to call that home after you retire, and taxes are going up, and it makes it harder and harder for people to be able to stay in their homes because of the taxes. But then where are they supposed to go? Go into an apartment where it's going to cost more? Senior living facilities where maybe the care isn't is good, but you're paying a ton more for it? Or are we going to have an epidemic of seniors that are homeless on our streets, right? Like, we need to do better. So this dark store loophole actually is a bill that addresses the fact that big box stores will come into communities, they'll build their store. I don't want to pick on anyone in particular, their big box store. And then they leave, and you've got an empty brown space within your community. Well, then a new big store will want to come in and build, and when they are looking at what their taxes should be for their brand new spanking store, and this, I think Sun Prairie is probably right in line because you've had a lot of development out here. You don't want this to happen to Sun Prairie. Those new businesses will say, well, that dilapidated place over there that's been empty, that's a big store that's been abandoned. That's my comparable for taxes. That doesn't, I mean, you all know how that works. That's not necessarily a comparable. And then that tax base, the community doesn't have it, so then it goes to the homeowners as opposed to the corporations, who we all know are making record profits right now. You know, we can look at they've done very well, even through this pandemic. So
the big box have
the
done
big
really
box
well.
stores,
Yeah.
and so, you know, we see, and then oftentimes they are a drain on the community. You can talk to the police chief. They are probably getting more calls to those big stores than to normal neighborhood situations. So they're already not paying their fair share, but they're using even more services. They have big trucks that are driving on our roads and you know, putting more wear and tear. So this is a real problem in Monona and many other communities across Wisconsin. So when it comes to taxing, right, like, we need to make sure that we're doing it in a fair way so that ordinary people like you and I can continue to live in our houses as long as we want, and we're not stacking the deck in part of that stacking the deck is giving more tax breaks and benefits to these big companies that, wouldn't it be nice if we were making that money?
Right, I know. Well, I've thought about that a lot, the big businesses that have come into Sun Prairie, and there must be tax incentives, or they're negotiating based on, like you said. But that's, I think, one big reason why people in Sun Prairie complain about taxes. It's Dane County, really.
It's
Everywhere.
Wisconsin.
It's everywhere,
It's
but
Wisconsin.
Dane County is higher.
But our roads are perfect.
Oh,
Almost.
yeah.
Almost. Better than Illinois. Better
So,
than Michigan.
Speaking of
Trust me.
Illinois, aren't there several states that have tax freezes on the elderly, like your property taxes? I don't know how they do that, but Illinois, I think, is one, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's something I'm not sure what the laws are in Illinois, but I do know that there are states that do have property tax freezes for folks after they reach a certain age.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them are tied to how long they've been residents of the community. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it. But again, if you freeze or remove taxes from folks, then that revenue needs to be made somewhere else.
Somewhere.
Our municipalities, I mean, you all like your trash picked up in the parks,
Sure.
and to know that
Yes.
your streets are going to be plowed and that your
Right.
kids' schools are funded, and that the fire department will show up when something terrible happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So making sure that we're doing it in a progressive, equitable way is really
Right.
important, and it is important that we support our seniors and figure out a way to help them stay at home, but also at the same point making sure that we're providing an opportunity to become homeowners within our
Sure.
communities if they are following all the rules, if they're doing everything that we ask. They have a job, they're making good money, their credit score's up, they want to call this home. We continue to have barriers to that as well. And that's really
Yeah.
what that bill that I put out is looking to address.
That is a catch-22, right? So we want to help seniors stay in their homes. It really might be the most economical way, and if they can live alone or have somebody come in and help them, we want to help them do that. But on the other hand, we also have the housing shortage, and that's, I think, part of the reason why the housing shortage is such an issue, because that population is not selling their homes like they may have in years past. They're staying longer. So, yeah, like, how do you balance that? We want to keep people there, but no, we really don't. We want you to sell your house.
Right.
Because we need it. We need the inventory.
Well, I just had a situation where I met with a lady because she wanted to sell her condo, and she's of age, and she had been looking at an assisted living. It was going to cost her $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
Cool.
$7,000 a month,
Yeah.
and by the time we sold her condo, she'd have like $65,000 left. It just wasn't a sound decision, and I'm sitting there with a case manager, and I said, I just can't see you selling this house right now, because you can stay here and you can still get your support services for a lot less than $7,000 a month. There may be a time you have to go into that, and that's a whole nother show too, by the way. What happens with our elderly as they progress, and if they end up in a nursing home. Because do you know that the federal government doesn't recognize a nursing home as their residence? Because if it did, they get all their Medicare benefits, the equipment, tubs, all that stuff would be included. That's another show.
That
You got to
actually
come back
happened
to
to me with my mom in Illinois.
Oh yeah?
Yep. I didn't realize that until I changed her address.
Yeah, they don't
Mistake.
recognize it.
Learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that they run out of money, now they go into medical assistance, and then everything, it just kind of falls apart.
There's, the lack of dignity in
Right.
aging is really, it's a real problem. It really
Yeah.
is.
Well, every time I look in the mirror at 60, I look, that's a lack of dignity.
Aw.
I keep dyeing my hair gray
It's
to
like
look
red
older.
wine, better with age.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I like that. Yes.
She's got to come back more often, you know.
Mhm.
How do we work with the municipalities and support them from your side as a senator to make it more attractive to developers? I'll give you an example. And the study came out and said that for us to catch up with our inventory levels, that Sun Prairie would need to provide 200 new homes a year. Well, I hate to tell you, Sun Prairie's never provided 200 homes a year, new homes a
Where's
year.
the land for all that? I mean, there's some, but that's.
Oh, there's still land. We got land out there. Not much, but we got some. We just
Could be
keep taking
condo
Bristol.
developments. I mean, that's
We take over
units,
Bristol.
right?
Keep more of Bristol. More of Bristol.
And,
Well,
yeah,
that's
and
all
how are they
matter.
gonna feel about that when you come and tell them that you're moving your signs into their neighborhood?
Yeah, I know.
Annex Bristol and then increase taxes, and then those people will be really mad.
Oh, I
because that's
know.
part of the reason why they live there, is
Right.
they lower taxes. Yeah.
But there's got to be an answer to this. I mean, it's.
It does.
But we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different, you know. So.
Insanity.
When I keep coming back to, you know, and I know I opened up with this, but, you know, let's define the problem. Let's actually figure out what low income
Sure.
is, what is affordable housing, what does that mean? And you know, I think it is important that we honor local control. Different communities need different things, right? In
Sure.
some communities, they need more infiltration, invigoration of their downtowns. So it might not be brand new builds, but
Sure.
how do we rehab and safe housing? And in Sun Prairie, you guys have some amazing, beautiful old houses that really are a highlight of your community. And,
Right.
you know, then you have other communities where they raise houses like that and start all over again. Is that right? Well, it's their community.
Sure.
But I think that, you know, making sure that we do have everyone at the table for these conversations is really important. And for too long, there's been tension in the policy making to be like, oh, Democrats don't talk to developers, or the builders don't talk to the, you know, like, we don't need that. You know,
No.
ultimately, if we are all at the table and we can agree on what it is that we're trying to solve, I think we can solve that problem.
Sure.
And maybe we need to get over some of that historical
Thank
tension
you.
that has existed there.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You know, we send people to the moon. Can't we do this?
And we did it in a very costly manner. And now he's buying Twitter.
Maybe we need Elon Musk to invest in our communities and housing. And
I think he
offset
is.
Taxes and
Well, that's a whole other question,
Uh,
right? Like these people that are coming in, whether they're people like Elon Musk or from another country that are coming in and buying all the property, and
Right.
then how does an individual ever compete with someone who
Right.
has that type of money? And is that
Yeah.
really how we want to define our communities, where they turn into little sub-cities that are owned by a big, huge,
Sure.
powerful thing?
Right, I agree. I think you're right. I mean, I like the renovation side of it, making sure we maintain what we have, but not put the rules or make the city or the municipality so powerful they're thinking, no, we don't like that facade. We want you to use this facade. Or one of the things that came up in what was it? Which one? Jenny Wren. Apartment complex was about carports instead of underground parking, and the city said, "Oh no, we have to have underground parking because people don't want to walk out in the elements." Okay, Michigan is full of carports. If you go to Ann Arbor, good luck finding an underground apartment with underground parking that's available. But I'd rather have a home that I can afford to live in and maybe go out and clear my windows in the wintertime.
well, everybody's different too, so we
Sure.
can't make assumptions that
No.
that type of garage or housing is what appeals to all. It isn't.
Right.
So why not find some affordable options if that's what it is? You talk about no basements a lot,
Yeah.
building without a basement.
Well, I use that because in all the research and all that I did, now I forgot his name. I want to say Charles Levitt, but that's not it. He was out in New York, in Levittown, New York. And he built in Pennsylvania and New York. And what he wanted to do was create a development for returning veterans from World War II. And so he set up 4 to 5 different examples. They were all on a slab. It was a heated slab, by the way. It was
How
all
innovative.
right back then,
Right.
you know. And he made it very attractive and very affordable for veterans to go buy a house.
Is that how does Vandenberg have basements, or was it built in the same model?
Vandenberg does have basements,
Okay.
but not all of them.
But that was for military housing
Right.
also.
Yep, it
and
was.
Like 2 units,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
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 But and Vandenberg gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does, yeah.
It's had a bad time in the past, but it's coming around.
Mm-hmm.
And with Habitat for Humanity, Dane County, Val, Rank, that we know, a friend of ours, thanks to them, it's really turning out to be a fabulous neighborhood. Great parks.
Yeah.
I know. It's like 2 blocks from my
The
house.
city and Habitat have put a lot into
They
that
have.
neighborhood. Even Habitat was doing like an exterior, giving money for exterior improvements, landscaping, painting, just to kind of make the neighborhood look, more appealing in general.
Mhm.
And considering the housing shortage going on right now, people are buying houses over there, right?
Yes,
They're
they
not
are.
worried about it.
Yep.
It's a home.
Well,
It's
we
an affordable home.
we know
Well,
somebody who said that they wouldn't buy a house there,
Yeah.
and I quickly said, "Why not? What's wrong with you?" It's a great area. The house was absolutely gorgeous. It was an older Habitat home,
Mhm.
and it was a fabulous house. But nope. And that Vandenberg reputation, that old reputation, came in and stop it.
And as a realtor, you have to be careful anyway about what you say and how you answer questions about
Yeah.
that. Like, what's the crime rate? I heard this, I heard that. Okay, well, here's your community resources. You go do your own.
Well, and that points back to the fact that we need to make sure our municipalities have the funds to be able to take care of folks, right?
Right.
And that's all part of, why it is that we have taxes.
Right. Exactly.
So, Habitat's amazing. I
Mhm.
really have enjoyed working with them over the years. I've gone and done the Women's Day bills
Yeah.
and served soup on the Super Bowl.
Right.
And
Yeah.
my staff and I have gone out and just helped on days where, I think one year
A
I had
building?
one of my staff, up on the roof of the house. I was like, oh, good Lord, do you have a safety belt for
Doing
for
some
that?
trusses?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
But
good for you.
It's a
Nice.
lot of fun. You feel good, and I've been
Yeah.
able to be at some of the house blessings as well,
Mhm.
which is really a magical opportunity to.
It is.
Just
My
protect.
eyes water when I do that because it's usually a really touching story.
Yeah.
And they're not free. We had Val on, last week?
Last week.
I've heard so many people talk about, those people don't have to do anything,
Oh,
it's
good Lord.
free. It's not free.
No.
It's not. They're putting work into it, sweat equity,
Mhm.
right? They have to take classes, which I think is cool, on all kinds of things, including being a good neighbor, which is awesome. But they pay a mortgage
They're
back.
paying.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not free money.
No.
It's just a great, affordable option, and there are not many of them.
Right. And people talk about apartments. They always want NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard.
Yes.
Eh. They don't understand that we have to have apartments because not everybody can buy a home.
Mhm.
Not everybody wants to buy a home.
True.
You won't buy a home till you're 40, I bet.
Probably.
But there are groups out there that do not want to buy a home,
Mm-hmm.
and so they rent. We also, if our communities wouldn't run if we didn't have apartments, because there are folks that cannot afford to buy a home, they're not ready to buy a home, whatever. But there are also our teachers, our police officers, our EMTs, there are service people in restaurants, hotels. We have to support that, and we have to give them a good product.
We need a mix of housing.
Yes, you absolutely do. But again, we have to go back to a creative way to introduce housing. And I think Wisconsin being forward in everything, it should come out of Wisconsin. We can do it, Senator.
I look
And
forward
you're
to
the
that.
lady to
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
gonna get
She's
it done.
trying.
I'm gonna keep working on it. And I think despite the rhetoric that folks hear about what's happening in the Capitol building,
Yeah.
things do happen. We do have good things that are happening. And the Housing Committee, this last session, it had 2 different chairs because we had a special election, so the chair changed partway through. So that certainly was a little bit of a challenge for the committee. But we were able to get some stuff done.
Sure.
We addressed some legislation to support condominiums and with their bookkeeping, easement issues.
Homeowners
With
associations.
homeowners associations
Yeah.
and the easements and how it is that when people are buying and building, it gets filed within their local governments.
Hold on for that for a second, because what you just said is priceless, and most people don't even know about it. And can I touch on it a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
So what the senator's talking about is there was a sunset on easements. So let's say that you and your neighbor are sharing a driveway. You have to go down the same driveway, but it's really owned by your neighbor to get to your house. And the easements have a sunset clause. They end. The term ends on that. Well, the concern was, and it has happened, where the owner of that driveway that's just given you the easement for how many years, 40 years, 50 years, comes to you and says, it's now going to cost you $25,000 a year for you to drive on my land. And could have gotten away with it. But thanks to,
Bipartisan work in the Capitol.
I
Good
love it.
bipartisan work.
I
They were
love
able
that.
to-
It works.
Yep,
Can work.
yep.
and I appreciate the homeowners associations and clarifying that, because a lot of them, there isn't that transparency that there wasn't that transparency that we're now going to have, and I appreciated that. That was a huge one for me too.
Yeah, some
Wow.
zoning clarifications,
Absolutely.
zoning law stuff we did, and also some work to support housing authorities across the state. So we did do some great things, but I will also say that the committee was a dumping ground when it came to some legislation, which ate up time in
Like what?
committee. So we had a bill that was put before us that was going to attempt to have the state of Wisconsin collect financial damages from the Chinese government because of COVID. I mean, how do you even tangle your
Wow.
brain around that? So here in Wisconsin, I think we had
Sorry.
2,300 bills introduced for consideration this legislative session. About little less than 300 of them actually made it to the governor for him to either sign or veto. So that's, almost 2,000 bills that didn't even have a public hearing. But this bill, for some reason, got a public hearing, and the public hearing was in the housing
That
committee.
one, about China.
About getting money from the Chinese government
That
because of
made it, huh?
COVID. And we spent hours
Oh my
talking
word.
about this. And then we have bills like mine that actually we're hoping to be able to create a fund to provide resources to people to be able to buy a house.
Right.
And I was not able to have a public hearing on that bill, which was supported by groups across
Mhm.
Wisconsin.
Sure.
Um,
The Realtors Association.
The Realtors Association.
Builders
support that.
Association.
Yep.
So how are these
So,
prioritized?
uh,
All the bills that come in, all the things that you have to talk about and consider, how do you prioritize them?
So I don't get to choose, even as
Why
the
not?
ranking Democrat, because I'm a Democrat.
And the House or the Senate's controlled by the Republican
The
Party.
House and the Senate
And
are
the Senate.
both controlled by the Republican Party.
Mhm.
So they, the leaders of their party, most often not even the chairs of the committees, decide which bills are going to move forward to committees, and then those chairs get to decide when and if they're going to have hearings at the committee level. So that's part of the problem here in Wisconsin, is that you can have a policy that is supported by 80% of the people in the state, or usually 80 is about the top, 70% of the people in the state, and it doesn't move forward, even though it's bipartisanly supported by the amazing people of our communities, because the leadership of the Capitol, 2 people, have decided that they don't want to have that conversation.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
It's very frustrating.
You're trying to do some good, some genuine good, and you're stopped.
I'm an earnest person, right?
Mhm.
Like, maybe, I don't know if you can tell that over the radio, but I'm a
Mhm.
pretty earnest person. And I'm not going to apologize for what it is that my views are or
Sure.
my district. I do represent one of the most progressive districts in the state. And I hear from them about what it is that they want me to work on.
And you listen.
And I try very hard to listen. We had, I think, over 24, maybe close to 30 listening sessions over the last year and a half, with me in the communities meeting with people, inviting them to talk to us, some via Zoom, some at libraries, some at parks. But I take very seriously what it is that people are bringing to me. So I think one of the messages that I'm hoping that your listeners leave today with is, don't assume that we are in agreement and I'm just going to do the right thing, right? Like the bills that I have gotten passed into law, and I have gotten bills passed into law even in the divided government, they've come from people who are bold enough to reach out and talk to me and share their ideas with me. And then I do my job and shop them around within the Capitol building. But sometimes success is just planting a seed, having a conversation about something, and you never know who's going to come into your office and say, hey, I liked that idea. How about why is it 300%? Why don't we change it? And this is why I'm thinking we need to change it. Or could we expand it in this way? Yes, absolutely, because at this point, it's an idea.
Right.
This polarization is crazy. It's got to stop. And we've got to be the folks to make that stop. And the only way it's done is through elections. And we've got to work with people that are willing to work together to take off that Democrat or Republican hat and sit down and do what's best for folks and not worry about political parties. I don't know how that happens,
Yeah.
because I don't know enough about it, but I know that it's hurting us as a country and as a community and as a state. So it's I felt that when I ran, obviously, a nonpartisan little city council position, and the attacks that I got were just amazing, to the point where my spouse said this year when the seat opened up, Teresa Stevens stepped down to be our library Foundation.
She's doing a great job there, isn't she?
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's one of the best. I talked to her when she was city council. I probably talked to Teresa probably once, maybe twice a month, and that's amazing. And it was always about housing or issues. She'd bounce ideas off me, things like that. I forgot where I was going with this.
And the rhetoric and
right.
yeah,
When you
your
were
wife
running,
probably
what-
didn't want you
Right.
to do it again because she sees how terrible it is, doesn't she?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she saw the attacks, and she says, "Can you just not do it this time?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"But I wanna, because I think I can make a difference. I got a big mouth."
It's hard on my kids, right? Like they are my most fierce defenders,
Yeah.
and they know I'm their most fierce defender.
Tell Laura
as
how
well.
many.
I have 4 boys.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I love them.
I'm kidding. I love my 2. I just can't imagine
And I have 2.
4. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they see what people say. Unfortunately, sometimes even before me, because it happens on social media, and it can be scary. It can, and it's unfortunate that folks think that they can get away with saying that. I'm gonna say crap.
So instead of
Yeah.
making blanket statements about politicians and how, I don't know, about their motivations that you really don't even know because you haven't asked, maybe think for a moment about how hard it is for somebody to step up and run. And because they want to make a difference, they really want to make some positive changes. I think if we could all just be a lot more curious instead of judgmental, ask questions, we'd be a better world. I know
Curiosity
that
is-
sounds, but
Yeah.
really.
You set me up. You tossed me up.
Did
my,
I?
My little thing. Stay in curiosity. Seek to understand.
Yeah.
That's something I always say.
Please, what do you
Stay
have to
curious.
lose?
Right.
You can have a whole lot to gain.
Right.
And why do you want to live in negativity and these preconceived ideas about what your motivations are?
Right.
What if her motivations are pure and genuine and she could actually make some cool changes for all of us?
And
Why?
and
Just
people
open
stand up
mind.
against her because they're on the other side of the
Because
aisle.
She's Democrat. Yeah.
Right.
Stop it. Who cares?
Right.
Just stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to talk about pot.
All right.
We got to talk about
We're
it.
talking about weed?
We got to talk about. Oh, you can't use the word
Can't say
weed.
that? I
yeah,
just said it.
it's
Sorry.
supposed. That just came. I heard this on the news that you can't refer to it as weed because that's racist.
What?
I know. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to call it? Ganja or
Cannabis.
cannabis? That's too
That's
long of a
the
word.
appropriate
You can
word.
say it. That's the official word.
Is
Cannabis.
weed really naughty?
Well,
I don't know.
I've not heard
You haven't
the
heard
weed
it?
part, but I've heard marijuana. The word marijuana actually has some racist connotations
Oh,
to
really?
it from where that, yeah.
Okay,
Oh my
stop
gosh.
with that too. Okay,
But,
anyway.
pot, weed, yeah.
Ganja.
Ganj,
I know.
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane.
All right.
Yeah, so the reason why Bill is bringing this up.
Yeah, why? Okay, what are we talking about?
Well, we have
Because I
to.
ran into him in the parking lot in South Beloit.
And I was
kidding.
rolling a
Oh,
bone.
We're learning all kinds of stuff here. Wow, keep talking. Okay,
So,
yeah.
I actually, about 9 years ago, I introduced a bill here in Wisconsin that would legalize cannabis for responsible adult usage.
Mhm.
It's taxed and regulated in the same way that we tax and regulate alcohol and tobacco. And when I first put that bill out 9 years ago as a baby assembly person, there were only 5 people in the legislature who signed on to the bill. And I knew, based on conversations and research with folks, that the most dangerous thing about pot in Wisconsin is that it's illegal. And we need to change that. And over the 9 years, this last session when I introduced the bill, not only did the governor include my bill in his budget, which is super exciting that all of that work built to be something that the governor actually believed in enough to include in his budget. It was stripped out. But we had over 40 legislators sign on in support of that bill, which is a large
That's
amount. You
progress.
don't normally get
No.
more than a handful.
Mhm.
But, that is an amazing amount of legislators. In the most recent Marquette Law School poll that was released just a month ago or so, 63%, 62% of people in Wisconsin support taxing and regulating cannabis in the same way that we tax and regulate alcohol for responsible adult usage. And 51% of Republicans now support this.
So why isn't it legal?
Yeah.
So 2 out of 3 people in Wisconsin want us to do this, and it's bipartisanly supported. If anyone who has ever run for office has won with 62% of the vote, people say that's a mandate. Now, 80% of the people in Wisconsin support medicinal. in the bill that I have been a champion for over all these years does have a medicinal component. I don't think people should have to pay taxes on their medicine. I think they should be able to have access. There are really sick kids and folks in our state that should not be prevented from having access to this plant. So I'm going to keep pushing on this topic. We are an island of prohibition, as Michigan and Illinois have legalized for adult usage, and no kidding. Last week I went down to South Beloit on the 19th to get ready for 420 to see what was happening down there. And I would say 75% of the cars had Wisconsin plates. And if you imagine that everyone walking in there is spending $100,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that's $25 at least of money going into the Illinois tax coffers that's leaving our state.
Why are the police not monitoring this? If it's illegal here and we know that there's a ton of people going to
Your court system would be full.
Well,
Tom
quite
Evil
frankly,
would
the
go
people
crazy.
who are driving, no one's doing harm. Driving, I mean, they're not, if they were impaired driving, I think that they would be taking that more seriously. But, you know, at this point, I think there's 13 states in the United States that have prohibition of cannabis in one way or another. So you do
We're
the
in the
math.
minority.
We are deep in the minority.
Come
and
on, people.
But
the
here's-
world is not ending in the states that have legalized.
Here's the thing is, the states can approve it, but the federal government doesn't recognize it.
So that's a big problem, is because the feds have classified cannabis on a list of really scary stuff. Heroin, cocaine, right? So pot is considered as dangerous as fentanyl, heroin, cocaine. And, you know, our federal government is better than that. They need to,
Where is this?
they need to change that
statistics coming
classification.
from? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
are people dying because they're high?
People are not dying because they're
What?
high.
Where's this coming from then?
It's,
That
you know, reefer madness, part of the dare. You remember in school and, you know,
I
the
do.
cartoons with the egg frying?
Yes.
This is your brain on drugs, right?
It was
And they
Nancy Reagan,
include,
right? Yes.
So cannabis was included with that.
So it's an old
So
thought
there's-
process.
yes, we need to
just
do a
need
lot of
to.
re-education.
I got it.
And it's hard to do research on it, right? Because it's illegal, so universities and research people can't have access to it. It's too bad.
Laura would volunteer.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, she-
volunteer.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Gummies. I can see you with gummies.
Gummies.
They're all in your purse right now.
Gummies.
I know.
Well,
They're
it's
there.
a CBD. That's a
Yeah.
different thing.
But you know the difference though. You got alcohol, right?
know.
Alcohol. Somebody who's driving that's drunk, they're flying and bouncing
Just
off
thinking
cars.
that. Wouldn't you rather come across someone who's stoned?
Yeah, he's stoned. He's going
Drunk?
5 miles an hour. The cop's
Right?
walking faster
He
than the
thinks he's
car,
going faster
and he
than
thinks
he
he's going
is.
100 miles an hour. Right?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you talk to the law enforcement officers. You know, I've even talked to your chief here in Sun Prairie, and you know, with the farm bill and hemp CBD being legal, how are you supposed to be able to tell the difference as a law enforcement officer? That is really tricky. But
Yeah.
overwhelmingly, law enforcement officers would say, I would much rather talk to someone who was high on pot than who was drunk on alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a
Absolutely.
lot scarier and more dangerous for society.
Most people are chill if they're
Yeah.
high, right?
I
But
hate-
I don't think
Get
you should be
anything.
driving even 5 miles an hour if you're.
I don't
yeah,
think
let's
so.
just have
You might
it.
even be sitting there thinking you're going, and the cop will, hey, wow, you run pretty fast. I mean, come on. I think of Cheech and Chong right away.
There is a movie, and it might be Cheech and Chong. Yeah, there is something like that in there. It's
Well, there's
funny.
TikToks that are out there with the
About
cop that
that?
walks up. They're sitting there. And he rolls down the window. You high? They go, oh hi. It's hilarious, and that's part of the problem, though. I mean, people see that like that, and they're, I don't know. It's time for a change. Make it.
It's past time.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
And, you know, we can address racial disparities that are
Oh my gosh.
terrible when it
Right.
comes to cannabis-related offenses. We can invigorate our main streets. We can support our farmers. It's a
Right.
very successful illicit industry in Wisconsin. There's a lot of money in the cannabis world. Let's bring it above the board. Let's regulate it so it's safe. Tax it so that we have money for our schools. Maybe some property tax relief for
There
our
you go.
homeowners. Right?
Maybe we could give our seniors some relief
That's
because of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Could help Bill out.
It's not all about you, Bill.
That's,
It's really not.
I've got the mic and the controls. I can turn this on.
Well, maybe for an hour
Anytime.
a week. It's about you.
Hey, before we get off the show, let's bring everything up to speed on where we are as a community with our numbers and how things are going.
Yep.
I gave you some information over there just so you could have it. I sent you the text on it. Right now in Sun Prairie, we are trending down in the way of the number of homes listed. We're at 41. We should be at 60 right now, and we're sitting at 41. 31 sales for the month. We should be at 34. Here's a killer. The average price right now is $452,253, which is an 18% increase over last year. And homes are selling at 2% over the asking price, 102%. So it's and it averaged about 17 days. In 2020, it was 9 days. Get this, Senator. This is cool. If you bought a home in 2019, you paid $309,000. Okay? If you bought it today, or sold it today, $452,000. That's $142,000 in equity.
That's a nice return.
Man.
And
then where are you going to live? Because
Well-
you can't find another house to buy.
No.
oh, you got to call me. I'll find that house. Ask Laura.
There are ways.
I'm pretty good about
Yeah.
that. So right now in Sun Prairie, if you go to Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and all those, they're going to lie to you. They're going to tell you there's 80-some homes for sale. There are not. Right now there are only about 12 houses for sale. If you look on the active listings, it's going to have a bunch of ghost listings. 5 ghost listings. A ghost listing is a new construction that can be built in the next few months. So they're just doing it to advertise that. So we have 12 houses, single-family houses for sale, 2 condos. That's it. That's it. Now, years past, we'd have 40 or 50. 40 or 50. And this is where the challenges that we have is that you have somebody, and when they're paying over 20, 30, 40,000 over the asking price, and we have somebody that's FHA, 3.5%, they can't go
Or
over.
VA.
Or VA.
Yeah.
This is hurting veterans big
can't
time.
Take advantage of, yeah.
Yeah, because the reason being is if the appraisal comes in shorter than the asking price, then the buyer and sellers should come together to make up the difference, but not in this market. The buyer is making it up, and these people who are putting 3.5% down do not have the added cash for it, so it hurts.
Unless they're putting 3.5% down so that they do have a buffer.
Right.
But you need to communicate
Right.
well with the other side and have a good relationship there.
Exactly. And folks, you've heard me talk about the secret weapon, and the secret weapon is delayed listings. And there are 7 delayed properties right now that are not officially on the market. If you're working with a realtor, tell them to pull up the delayed listings, and then you drive over and look at them. The real estate agent cannot go with you and show you that house until it becomes active. It doesn't mean that you can't write an offer on it, even though you've never seen inside it. And it's a great strategy. It's called sight unseen. You write that offer, but in the contingencies, you're a realtor, and you can call me and ask me or email me, and they write in there, contingent upon visual approval. Not inspection, approval. And if you like it, you're done, and the seller's done. It didn't hit the market, no open houses, no 74 showings. 74 showings, by the way, means about 220 people going through your house in a weekend. So it's kind of
That's a
crazy out
lot.
there. Yeah. Don't get upset about the market. If you're looking to buy, you just need to really be strategic and work with an agent that will be out of the box. Now, if you're not happy with who you have, talk to some other agents. If you want to talk to me, you're welcome to talk to me. That's not the purpose of why I'm telling you this. It's just to get you in with somebody that will help you buy that house that you're looking for. If you're looking to sell, it's still a great time to sell. Because you're going to recognize a lot of equity, and yes, I will find you the other house. Trust me, I will find you. There are strategies to that, so we can take care of that. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. I think it all goes back to curiosity. So ask questions. If you want to know if you can buy, you need to find out more about what those strategies are. So ask realtors what they're doing to get you an accepted offer.
All right, call me. That's all you do. Call me, email me, text me. You know all my numbers and everything, and I'll be glad to give you any insight. Even if you're working with another agent, I'll talk to the other agent to help you get that house
And it
done.
doesn't cost you anything for you to
Nothing.
help them?
Nothing.
There we go.
Nothing at all. This was a very special show for me. I've never had a senator on our show.
We are honored.
And to have Melissa Agard here in studio, for me, is exciting because I support her and I like what she's doing. Get to know your legislators. They are people. And this lady we walked into the realtors event, and here she is, about 5'2". No, are you 5'2"?
5'3".
With heels?
Oh, wow, that was close.
I know. Just standing there and all by herself. And I'm like, I got to go talk to her. Big old smile. And that's what you get when you meet with Senator Melissa Agard. And so thank you for being on the show. Thank you to your staff for helping line up everything. And will you come back on?
Absolutely.
I love that. Hey, Sun Prairie.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sun Prairie, thanks for your interest. Thanks for your questions, comments, and concerns. And catch us at Buck and Honey's or wherever and let us know what's going on. Thanks, Sun Prairie.
Bye, Sun Prairie. Okay. Now you're flying.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Down East
right.
Washington, right? Do
I'm
not
not
get a
gonna
speeding
say
ticket.
There
If you do you get, oh, hey.
Senator gets
nice.
ticket. Oh, yes.
Oh, it's got weed on it.
Thank you.
Look at that. I love it.
Bye, Facebook.